The BBI is not a political process.
When you mention or hear Pan-Africanism, think...
Please, let the president take charge of this. No more bloodshed.
Punchline Africa Television. Here, we're all about events.
Why don't we build cottage industries that can employ so many of these younger men? Why do you bring them to dance with the wheelbarrow?
On a 360 degrees overview on what's making news in Kenya and Africa at large.
A partyless DP risks an impeachment.
What's more, facts matter to us. Join us as we give you the daily punch on things that matter to you. Punchline Africa Television for Africa by Africans.
Very good afternoon to you, and thank you for finding time to joining me this afternoon. My name is Miriam Gutu. The show is Diaspora Dispatches, where we get to look at the news-making headlines across the continent. Earlier on, we were looking at topics and, of course, the news headlines across Kenya. But right now, I'd like for us to find out what else is happening across the continent. And being a Monday, that means that a lot has been happening over the weekend, so we have a lot to catch up with. Thank you so much wherever you're watching us from. A very warm welcome to you, and we start with the news from Eritrea. And Eritrean President Isaias Afwerki has arrived in Ethiopia for a 3-day working visit. His delegation includes Foreign Minister Osman Saleh and Presidential Advisor Yemen Gabreab. President Isaias and his host, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed, will hold consultations on further enhancement of bilateral ties, as well as the consolidation of regional cooperation, according to Eritrea's Minister of Information. And then we head over to Rwanda, where the authorities in Rwanda have penalized 2 Catholic priests after presiding over masses that violated coronavirus safety measures. The Catholic parish of Ruhengeri in the north of the country, where the priests are stationed, also risks closure. The 2 priests, Father Emmanuel Ndagijimana and Father Felician Nsengiyumva, are said to have failed to adhere to the number of congregants allowed to attend a mass. Police found a chaotic situation in the church, and everyone there was at a high risk of infection. That is according to a government statement. We head over to Nigeria, and I guess that is one of the most trending stories right now from the continent. And of course, if you've not seen the hashtag, I think SARS or something. Now, the campaigners in Nigeria have responded with skepticism to the announcement that a police unit widely accused of brutality has been disbanded. Protesters have called for the Special Anti-Robbery Squad, also known as SARS, to be broken up, but they are unhappy that its officers are being redeployed to other units rather than being disciplined. In a statement, Nigeria's police chief said allegations of abuse will be investigated. Demonstrations against the squad spread to Europe and Canada following widespread reports of unlawful arrests, torture, and even deadly shootings. And then we cross over to Ivory Coast, and thousands of Ivory Coast opposition supporters gathered in a stadium in the main city over the weekend as protests continued over the decision of President Alassane Ouattara to stand again for another term. Dressed in the national colors of green and white, they carried aloft banners proclaiming their opposition to a 3rd term, which they term as illegal. And then we head over to Mali, and the president, the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, who is also the current president of the Economic Community of West African States, that is ECOWAS, is on a mission of a 15-nation bloc in Bamako. He was received by the international president, Ban Doh, on Sunday to take the transitional president in Mali, I beg your pardon there, Ban Doh, on Sunday to take stock of the political transition and discuss the next steps to ensure that the deadline of the eventual presidential election is met. All activities towards regional solidarity with the new embargo-free Mali still regrouping post a coup d'etat that happened in August. The Ghanaian president is the first head of state to visit the West African nation since the ECOWAS-imposed sanctions were lifted. And then we go to Malawi, and Malawian President Lazarus Chakwera has defended himself from public criticism for not putting on a face mask during his scheduled 3-day visit to Tanzania on Wednesday. Chakwera has been under public criticism in Malawi following pictures on social media showing him with no face coverings when he met with his Tanzania counterpart, John Pombe Magufuli. The move violated COVID-19 prevention guidelines Malawi instituted in August, making wearing masks mandatory in public areas. According to the guidelines, those who do not adhere to the measures will be fined about $15. Now, in his weekly national address on Saturday evening, Chakwera said he did not wear a face mask in Tanzania as a sign of trust for Magufuli's position on COVID-19. Magufuli believes there is no COVID-19 in that country, hence no need for preventative measures. Okay, so the rest of us are just what? Flirting around with death, or there's no death at all? Okay. We head over to Cameroon, and please continue wearing your mask, wash your hands, and sanitize if you can. We head over to Cameroon. At least 3,000 Cameroon teachers have refused offers by the Central Africa's states and military to transport teaching staff to schools in the conflict-prone English-speaking regions. The teachers who fled separatist attacks, looting, burning, and occupation of their schools in the English-speaking regions say they are not sure of their safety, as some fighters are again threatening to kill teachers and students who go to school. The renewed threats are casting doubts over all schools reopening after 4 years of closure due to the crisis in the Anglophone region there in Cameroon. And that is also Ambazonia. And then we go to South Sudan, where the authorities in South Sudan have said the suspected cases of Ebola in northwestern region have tested negative, but samples were not collected from those who died from a yet-to-be-established illness that sparked suspicion. They were buried before a medical team from the Health Ministry and the World Health Organization arrived in the area. Last week, the Health Ministry received an alert from Braja County in western Bahr el Ghazal state after 3 people died from an unknown disease in Timsa area near Central African Republic. 3 others were reported to be in a critical condition. And then still staying with South Sudan, and a Tanzanian national has been appointed the new Commissioner General of the South Sudan National Revenue Authority. Dr. Patrick Magoya begins work this week. He was appointed last week, replacing Dr. Olympio Atipoe, who was fired in August last year. The new Commissioner General was formerly the Deputy Commissioner of the Tanzanian Revenue Authority. Speaking to the media after signing of his contract in Juba, Dr. Patrick Magoya pledged to develop a strategic plan for the transparent, accountable collections of non-oil revenue. He also promises to end tax leakages and unnecessary waivers. It's quite interesting, this story from South Sudan, and we've been, talking about it. We talk about a lot about South Sudan. Because there are always things to talk about when it comes to South Sudan. And this story is particularly quite interesting, maybe even sad, not just interesting, because South Sudan, as we know, the guy that was fired before that headed the revenue body in that country was from Nigeria. And then after the guy was fired, they put in a South Sudanese. It appears he was not quite honest, and he was not even the revenue, I think, reduced. And so now they had to bring somebody else outside of South Sudan, and that is from Tanzania. I don't know what that says about the people and the leadership, or the people that even the authorities there in South Sudan choose to trust with the responsibilities in the different sectors there in South Sudan. So if you cannot find a South Sudanese that you can trust to head the revenue body, and you have to source from outside, I think that is quite a serious thing. I can't even imagine Kenya. Of course, Kenya and South Sudan, we're quite different in terms of where we are as a country. South Sudan is just trying to get out of, the chaos over the war that it has had since 2013, just 2 years after gaining its independence. And so we are totally at a different, places as countries. But I can't even wrap my head around President Uhuru Kenyatta deciding to bring somebody from outside to head the Kenya Revenue Authority because he could not trust Kenyans. I know we have a problem with corruption and all of that, but still we still have a few good heads around, people who still can be trusted to do that job. And if anything, we have structures in place to hold them accountable. So in South Sudan, there appears not to be such a person. So the person during that whose tenure, South Sudan seems to have been collecting good revenue and could make weekly announcements just to tell South Sudanese where the country was in terms of how much revenue had been collected, the non-oil revenue. So I guess there is another body that collects the oil revenue, but other taxes, so he could come out every week and give the weekly updates, and then he was fired. I think some inner circles there from the South Sudanese government did not like him very much. So after he was fired, they brought in a South Sudanese as an interim, leader on that body, and he was not doing very well. And I think we are having this story here a couple of weeks ago, where that guy even stopped giving the weekly reports as the other guy, Dr. What is his name, Atipoe, from Nigeria used to. So the South Sudanese refused. So now the country has to bring somebody else from Tanzania, and of course they brought in Dr. Patrick Mugoya, who now will be heading the South Sudanese Revenue Authority there. I think that says a lot, and all right, we apologize for this bit of a technical hitch there that we had, but still, I think as I was saying there before, we had that bit of a problem there. I hope to see a day where South Sudan as a country and as a people will be able to have its act together. I can't even blame this to the people. I'll just blame the leadership of South Sudan on this one, and I just hope there is a day that will come that they will have their act together, so that they're able to do right by the people of South Sudan. All right, let's just leave that alone and we go to another news from Cameroon. And America, that is the United States of America, has denied allegations of unannounced military intervention in Cameroon to solve the 4-year-long Anglophone crisis rocking the northwest and southwest regions of the country, attributed to its ambassador to the United Nations, Kelly Craft. In a release made public on Friday, October 9th, the U.S. Embassy in Cameroon states clearly that it has no interest in such interventions in Cameroon, and I'll just quote part of that letter. The U.S. Embassy categorically denies the assertions in recent fake news stories claiming that the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Kelly Craft, recently announced alleged U.S. intentions regarding a supposed military intervention in Cameroon. Similarly, the embassy rejects the fake letter that they're saying there. Now, the release, nevertheless, admits that during their camp together last September, that is on 7th, the Congress expressed concerns about human rights violations in Cameroon and urged both parties to engage in an inclusive dialogue to end the violence and nothing else that had to do with U.S. intervention. All right, then, so that is the latest news from the continent this afternoon. Thank you so much. Of course, we've not had this show so quite for over like a week now, and so a lot of things have happened. ECOWAS have lifted some of the sanctions it had towards Mali. Remember, after that coup that happened in August, and we see now the current chair of ECOWAS, that is the president of Ghana, Nana Akufo-Addo, paid a courtesy call to the transitional president Bando, and just I think to find out how things are working. And now that Mali is back as being part of ECOWAS, perhaps it's a good thing that President Akufo-Addo is in Mali just to see what's really happening there. This story of President Lazarus Chakwera, who, refused to wear a mask when he was in Tanzania because, Tanzania, there's no COVID. We don't know that for sure because President Magufuli has refused even for anybody to broadcast about even COVID, saying COVID-19 there in Tanzania is illegal and you can actually be prosecuted and jailed for that. So he goes out there and he's unable to wear the mask because nobody's wearing a mask in Tanzania, and so he is criticized back at home in Malawi, and they're saying, hey, that goes against what you're telling us to do here. So I think President Chakwera there was found himself in a very difficult position there. But as I said earlier, the story that is still making headlines and is still trending, I think, across the continent is the hashtag SARS. This special anti-robbery squad police unit that in Nigeria that has been accused of abuse, has been accused of killings, have been accused of so many other, ills, unlawful arrest, torture, and even sometimes deadly shootings. And Nigerians have been protesting over this, and now they're not very happy because the government came out and said, okay, fine, we have disbanded this unit, but instead they've taken these police officers and taken them back to other units in the police force. And the people of Nigeria are not very happy. They are saying we want them fired, we do not want them sent elsewhere, and they should be fired for being indisciplined. I don't know. We call them the discipline forces. So anyway, so that is the trending story of the day. So Nigerians have been protesting. I saw the protest yesterday. Was it on Al Jazeera? And this is something that has been brewing up. So hashtag SARS is still the leading, I think, hashtags in the continent. So let me know your thoughts on that one. Of course, over the weekend, also what happened, even as Ivory Coast gears to go to its election, and the elections in Ivory Coast is supposed to be on 31st of October. Tanzania's elections is 28th of October, so I think just a couple of days apart, if I'm not very wrong. So we know President Alassane Ouattara decided to go for a third term. That is illegal. Ivory Coast constitution allows for 2 terms, 5 years each, but he decided to change that. So now he's going for a third term, and that has not augured well with the opposition there in Cameroon, in Ivory Coast, and of course, the supporters and the leaders of opposition have come out to express their discomfort with that move by President Alassane Ouattara. But of course, that has not really stopped him. He said, I really don't care how you feel. I'm still going to run for a third term, whether you like it or not. Regardless of what the Constitution says, I'm still going to run. And so those elections are set to be on the 31st of October, and we shall be here to keep you up to date. I think that's what we had today. And that letter from the U.S. about Cameroon and what is happening there in the Anglophone region, or what the Anglophones call Ambazonia region there. And the U.S. is coming out to say, oh, no, we did not say we're going to bring a military intervention. You got us wrong. But what we did is we raised questions about the crisis, the humanitarian crisis that continues in the Anglophone region there in Cameroon. And so that is that. And also the story about the government saying that it's willing to deploy the military to escort teachers to work in the Anglophone region and back home. What? Okay. I don't know if that is going to help the matter there, but at least 3,000 Cameroon teachers have refused. That is from the Anglophone region, have refused offers by the teaching staff to schools in the conflict-prone English-speaking regions. The government of Cameroon must really have a lot of soldiers there. So how long is the government even planning? Should this plan go ahead? How long are they planning to be doing that, to be escorting the teachers, military in a country, to be escorting the teachers to work and to and fro? I think they need to solve the problem. You cannot keep trying to solve the symptoms all the time. You need to solve the problem. You need to find out what is really happening. President Paul Biya, you need to find a lasting solution, the crisis between your government and that of the Anglophone region, and find a way forward and solve this matter once and for all. These symptoms you keep trying to purge all the time is not working. Go to the root cause and find out how can we solve this problem once and for all. I think that will be a lasting solution. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Diaspora Dispatches, where we've been looking at the news-making headlines across the continent. We've looked at Mali, we've looked at Malawi, we've looked at Cameroon and what is happening there in the Anglophone region. We've looked at South Sudan. We've looked at Eritrea, Rwanda, Nigeria, and of course Ivory Coast. And if there's anything else I've left out, you can share there, and our viewers can go through it. Thank you so much. I hope to meet you here tomorrow. My name is Miriam Ogutu. A very good afternoon to you. Bye-bye for now.
Peace must be our goal and our guide. And all that we strive for as a human family, dignity and hope, progress and prosperity, depends on peace. But peace depends on us.